let's talk about contractions. I actually used a contraction in that last sentence. Instead of let us, I said let's. Now, contractions are a very common part of natural spoken English, so let's learn a little more about them. So first of all, what exactly are contractions? Contractions are just two words that are combined to create a shorter word. So we do this by removing one or more letters, replacing those letters with an apostrophe, and then we have our contraction. And contractions are very commonly used in spoken English, natural spoken English, in informal writing and informal conversations. So I've said that contractions are informal. When exactly should you use them and when should you avoid them? When it comes to any formal written document, you want to avoid using contractions. Do not use contractions in formal pieces of writing. So this would be things like your CV or your resume, your cover letter, any legal documents, a report for work. If you have to take the IELTS exam, you do not want to use contractions on task 2 on your essay. This is an academic piece of writing, so you don't want to use contractions there. All right. Now, this being said, it is okay to use contractions when you are speaking. It is a natural part of our speech. It doesn't necessarily make you sound less formal. All right. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that I am in a business meeting or I am giving a formal presentation. I can still introduce myself by saying, I'm Julie, instead of I am Julie. It doesn't make me sound any less professional as long as I am speaking clearly, okay? Now, with this in mind, should you always use contractions when you're speaking? In general, most of the time, I do use contractions. I use contractions even in these lessons, okay? Without even realizing it or thinking about it, it is a very natural part of spoken English. So if you haven't been using contractions, try to start implementing them into your everyday speech. Now, there is sort of one exception to this general rule. The one time that I do not use contractions is when I am speaking to an English learner who has a beginner or quite a low level of English. In these situations, contractions can be confusing and it can be difficult for the listener to identify the contraction and understand that it is two words made into one because they may not have learned about contractions yet. So in a situation where I'm speaking to someone who has zero English or is an absolute beginner, in this case, I might introduce myself a little bit differently. I might say, I am Julie, or my name is Julie. Very clear, crystal clear. So if you are dealing with someone who is a beginner level of English, in this case, you might want to avoid contractions just to help make sure that they've understood you correctly, all right? But in pretty much every other situation, when I'm speaking, I use contractions. Now let's look at some of the most common contractions in English. First of all, we have I am. I am. Instead of I am, we can simply say I'm. And we often introduce ourselves like this. Instead of I am Julie or my name is Julie, it's very common to say I'm Julie. I'm Julie. In pretty much any situation. And this is especially common if you are introducing yourself to someone in a social or informal situation. You can say, hi, I'm Julie. Nice to meet you. Next, we have you are. You are. You are becomes your. Your, okay? Your. So for example, if someone gives you a gift, you can say, you're so thoughtful. Thank you. You're so thoughtful. Thank you. He is, she is, it is, he is, she is, it is. These become he's, she's, and it's. Okay? He's, she's, and it's. For example, he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. Or she's a great worker. She's a great worker. Or it's okay. It's okay. So these are very, very, very common. He's, she's, it's. We are and they are become we're and they're. We're and they're, all right? So for example, we're on our way. We're on our way. We're on our way, okay? So pay attention to the pronunciation. We're on our way. Or they're on the way. They're on the way. Now this contraction is pronounced the same as T-H-E-R-E, there, okay? They're on the way. Cannot becomes can't, like I can't make it. I can't make it. And when you pronounce can't quickly, it kind of sounds like can, but you can generally understand it through the context of the sentence. And if you are not sure, you can always ask for clarification, all right? I encourage you to pronounce this one clearly so that your listener can understand you. I can't make it. I can't make it. I can't make it. Do not becomes don't. Do not, don't. So, I don't like it, or I don't think so. Will not becomes won't. So we change this one a little bit. This is a little bit special. Will not, won't. For example, I won't be late. I won't be late. I won't be late. Should not, and could not become shouldn't and couldn't. Shouldn't and couldn't. For example, you shouldn't worry so much. You shouldn't worry so much. You shouldn't worry so much. Or, I couldn't finish the report. It was too much for today. I couldn't finish the report. It was too much for today. And next we have would have, could have, and should have. These become would've, could've, and should've, okay? Would've, could've, and should've. And we use these three to talk about hypothetical things in the past, okay? So for example, I would have come if I'd known sooner. I would have come if I'd known sooner. Or you should have told me. You should have told me. You should have told me, okay? And when we say this one quickly, it actually sounds like shoulda. Shoulda. You should have told me. Or I could have helped you. I could have helped you. I could have helped you. Would have, could have, should have, would have, could have, should have. And when you say them quickly, the last sound actually sounds like an A. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. When you are speaking only, remember that. Now let's do a little bit of practice. I will give you a sentence without contractions, and I want you to use contractions in this sentence. Pause if you need to. Our first sentence is, I will call you when I am home. I will call you when I am home. Pause if you need to. With contractions, this sentence becomes, I'll call you when I'm home. I'll call you when I'm home, okay? And you can practice your pronunciation here by repeating after me. I'll call you when I'm home. I know that this might feel a little bit unnatural. It might feel kind of like you're swallowing your words a bit, but I promise you it is very natural, very conversational, and very easy for English speakers to understand. I'll call you when I'm home. Next, I cannot tell him because I will not be there. I cannot tell him because I will not be there. So that's the sentence with no contractions. Let's use some contractions. This sentence becomes, I can't tell him because I won't be there. I can't tell him because I won't be there. Okay, I can't tell him because I won't be there. And notice I've also shortened because to cuz. This is not a contraction. This is just a feature of natural pronunciation. Okay, it's not a contraction, but I've shortened the word a little bit. Next, why have you not finished this yet? Why have you not finished this yet? This is a nice sentence to use when you're following up with someone on a task that they should have finished already, all right? So that's without contractions. With contractions, this sentence becomes, why haven't you finished this yet? Why haven't you finished this yet? And next, I could have driven you to the doctor if I had known you were going at the same time as me. I could have driven you to the doctor if I had known you were going at the same time as me. So that's quite a long sentence. We want to shorten it, make it sound a little more natural using contractions. Instead, we can say, I could have driven you to the doctor if I'd known you were going at the same time as me. I could have driven you to the doctor if I'd known you were going at the same time as me. Okay? So you can rewind a little bit. You can listen to these sentences and these examples again. I really encourage you to practice pronunciation using contractions because I know that it doesn't always come naturally when you are learning a second language. Now, using contractions is just one of the ways that you can have more natural conversations in English. And if you are trying to improve your English conversation skills, make sure to grab my free ebook, English Conversations Made Simple. I will link it down below this video. If you enjoyed this lesson, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe because it really does help this channel to reach more English learners around the world. Thank you so much for watching, learning, and spending time with me today, and I'll see you very soon in another one.